welcome back everyone to Master Game Design, Unreal Engine 5 Stylized Environment and third-person blueprint course. In the last lesson, we left ourselves off by setting up a nice archway both at the front and entrance of the slums. They look quite fancy. I think they're going to be quite alright though in regards to just making this overall scene look a little bit nicer. And let's go ahead and just continue on polishing this up a little bit. So the entrance doesn't need a door or anything of the sort. This section, I'd like to ideally just close it off a little bit so it wouldn't just look like it's just standing like this in the middle. I'm going to add some supports with the walls. And I'll just add a simple wall like so. Just drive it to the side like this. And that's going to be it in regards to that. Maybe I'll even lower this down actually. And bring it out, bring it back basically so it wouldn't just come out from this section. And there we go, that's looking quite nice. I'm going to just hold duplicate and just duplicate this wall and bring it even further in actually. Something like so. I think that looks quite nice. Making sure that both of these walls are actually symmetrical in regards to its area. We don't really need to do that, but it just helps with the overall section, making it look a little bit more stable as a structure. I'm going to bring this out actually a little bit like so, so it just pops out. The back looks quite alright actually as well. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as is. And yeah, let's go ahead and basically when we're done with this, we just gotta click play, see how this looks like, and just determine in regards to how it's going to look once we enter this section. I'm going to just open this door real quick just so I could see the type of experience that a player would get. And the first impression of this section. So you enter, you can see like some balconies and whatnot. It helps nicely break up. This wall though is going to be looking quite plain. So we can either A, add extra windows and whatnot, or B, just leave it for now and add some props, because I know the props are going to help out in breaking off the overall surface, making it look less rigid. It's going to help us out in regards to that. We need to fix this hole over here, for example. So that's something of a note to just leave it for later down the line. This section is going to be blocked off. I'm going to just real quick grab one of the blocks and just place it there because I want to see how it looks like in regards to the lighting conditions for this section. If we have it too dark or whatnot, I'm just going to go ahead and just make this block quite a bit larger. Just put it off to the side like so, and maybe grab another block over here. Again, this is mainly for the testing purposes of this alleyway, so sometimes we can just grab some type of shadow blocks in a way to just make sure it looks quite nice and we look like there is an entrance basically we can pass through. And it does look like quite a narrow alleyway, but hopefully it'll be easier to tell which way to go. Although to the right side you can see that there's a bit of a type of an entrance over here, but luckily we just blocked this section off, so it's not going to look like there was supposed to be a path or anything of the sort. It just helps it, making it look like it's more of a maze-like structure instead of just narrow one-way path. So that's quite nice. This section over here, this is definitely too open, as you can see over here. I'm just going to actually do a quick screenshot over here to show you what I mean. If we're looking at some urban alleyways and whatnot in regards to some sections like that, you wouldn't have just nice straight structures like that. You'd usually have sort of ways of breaking it up a little bit, maybe some even, if it was more of an urban type of futuristic look, we'd have like some cables and whatnot, or you'd have certain like cloth hanging over here, since it's more of a Egyptian type of a fantasy look towards this section. So I'm going to go ahead and try fixing this over here. Instead of just trying to figure out in 2D view, I'm going to just add some balconies and see if it helps out with in regards to this section. So balconies in this particular part is going to be quite an interesting one, since we have certain sections, for example, sticking out. We're able to hide it out of the way with certain building parts. At this point, I don't really want to move any of the buildings. I just want to hide some parts. So for example, these windows over here, I'm just going to go ahead and use one of the blocks to just hide it out of the way. Like so. Or actually, sorry, I don't even need to hide this out of the way. I just realized that these blocks are going to be replaced with a building, which we're going to do in a bit. Now let's go ahead and just focus on this alleyway. So for starters, we're going to go ahead and try getting something out of this section over here. We're going to just use a simple square type of a balcony. It's actually quite a large one, so I'm going to fit it in like so. maybe over here, or alternatively, we could try putting it over here. But as you can see, there is an issue with this pillar. What I could do is just grab another chunk and just kind of place it in, and it would look quite nice from this section. I'm going to actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my camera downwards like so, going to hold Control and free, and that would save our viewport. So now we can click free and see how it looks like straight away. And with that, we can just work down in regards to the structure of this section. I'm just going to play around with the shapes a little bit, maybe even grab this form. I'm not too worried about the overall type of a quality, because I know that this area might not be quite as close to the player. Although in the end, we are planning to have some platforming on top of the roofs. But for now, though, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to focus mainly on the structural integrity. I'm just going to bring this outwards a little bit like so. Bring this out as well. And there we go. We've got ourselves a nice rooftop for this section. I think it looks quite all right. Maybe I'll just bring these both actually a little bit more to the right. I'm going to click free and just see how this looks like. I'll just bring it a little bit more to the left. There you go. It looks like this pillar is underneath right for the support of this middle section of the balcony. Now this other one can go somewhere like in here. I'm going to use a round one just to kind of have more variation for these sections, although it looks a little bit more fancy when it comes to the rounded ones. I'm going to click free and see how this looks like. And I'm going to actually click play just to see how a third person looks in regards to its height. And this does look like a, you know, like a second floor, or not a ground level basically. I think that's going to be quite all right, since some of the buildings are going to look like they're partially built within the ground itself. This doesn't look too low. I'm quite happy with that. Then we're going to go ahead and maybe add something over here as well. I don't really, if I click free, I don't really want to add anything too thick in regards to this section over here. So I might consider actually just grabbing one of the balconies that we built beforehand for the luxury area. It's right now if we click free. This looks, yeah, this looks a little bit too much for this section. So yeah, let me just go ahead and think what we can do over here. Or alternatively, we can just add a window, and let's check if the window itself is going to be just right for this section. I might grab one of the thicker windows like this one over here, and that might help us to break out the form. So let me just go ahead and check. And yeah, it does help out to break out the form a little bit. I'm not quite sure if I don't want an extra extension maybe over here. I might want to grab this block, actually just put it all the way down like so, and just put it in a corner just like that. Actually, I'll grab the window outwards. And the reason being is that I don't really want this window to be looking like it's in the same kind of a area, vertical area for the silhouette of this pillar over here. So this now, as you can see, it just goes a little bit more bumped off to help to break off the silhouette. I'll get this a little bit more inwards, and maybe this lower it down like so. Just go ahead and see how this looks like, and there we go. It looks quite a bit nicer. Let's go ahead and see if we have any cloth or anything of the sort, and we should have some of that actually over here. And I think actually that's going to be part of another prop pack. So yeah, we're going to just real quick go on to the prop pack itself. Although we basically did not touch it throughout this entire course, we're going to make use out of it in regards to the future prop setup. But now what we need to do is just go on to the stylized props. We're going to, just as I said before, everything is going to be more or less in the same kind of order. We're not going to touch the map just yet. We're going to go on to the meshes itself. It has all the props over here, just like that. And I might just go and search for cloth. Cloth. Like so, and there we go. We got ourselves some nice cloth to work with. And yeah, I think I'm just going to grab this one over here. It looks great. The reason being, probably the mesh is not, there you go, preparing shaders. Just make sure it just sets up with the shaders themselves. And I might just use this over here, kind of help us break off the surface a little bit. I'm gonna use one like so. And we need to probably, yeah, cloth attachment. We need to go ahead and use that real quick, like so. I'm going to make this quite a bit smaller actually. I want to keep these quite a bit small, so it wouldn't just block off the entire section. I'm going to click free just to see how it looks like, and there we go. It looks much nicer when it just breaks off the surface a little bit, like so. We need to raise these up a little bit, just like that. And I think that looks quite alright. Go ahead and just hold Alt, put it up to the other side, like so. And reposition it just a little bit. Not going to worry about it too much in regards to the props and smaller detail and whatnot. At this point, we just need to focus in regards to just making sure that the silhouette when you're entering just looks quite a bit nicer. Oh, I need to make sure I'm outside, actually. There you go. It seems like it just placed me all the way outside, so I'm just going to go back in. When a collision is being placed within a playable area, it's just going to place it in another section. So right now when you're going, it's going to look much nicer anyway with this overall setup. So anyways, moving on with this, I'm just going to go ahead and grab this, actually select this entire thing like so. And I might as well just group these parts together. I'm a bit worried about this looking a little bit off. I might even consider lowering this down. This also goes into the pillar, which might look a little bit off. I'm going to click free just to see how it looks like if it's lowered down a little bit. And I might even, I might even lower this down a little bit like so to this section. So it's going to look quite all right over here. That looks quite nice. Let's go ahead and click Control and G to group these up. And I'm just going to place it over here as well onto the side of this. That looks quite nice. Okay. And as for this part, it might look a little bit empty, but again, with certain props, we're going to be able to fix that, which we're going to do in later on. Now we were worried about this alleyway, which is going to look much better right now. This section over here might need some windows or something of the sort to help it break it down. I'm going to go back onto the harbor pack meshes, going to check for a balcony. And maybe we'd be able to make use out of this and just place it all the way on the ground, actually, even on the ground level like so. Like a nice entrance, just like that. I think that looks actually quite nice. Let me just go ahead and see with a player going past the section. When we're like bashing around ideas and whatnot, we want to keep it at a pace. Otherwise, we might get into a sort of a tunnel vision when working with a slower type of a setup. So most of the time what you want to do is just you want to keep up the pace, so you want to keep your mind fresh. Or if you start working too long on one project, you might want to take a bit of a break and just come back to it later, as it really helps to just get a fresh perspective on this. So for example, afterwards, I might just consider adding some extra parts and whatnot. This part over here is really empty, so I'm just going to go ahead and add a quick balcony like so. And that's going to help us out quite a huge amount. Just like that. That's quite all right. There you go. I might even just add it a bit lower. Like so. And add a couple of windows on the top, because it's such a long type of a piece that it would definitely be helpful. This looks like a bit of a taller type of building, bit of a higher, so I'm just going to use a bit more of a fancier looking type of windows. So, well, they're not too fancy, but they have more of a reinforced type of a look. I think that's going to be quite all right. And yeah, this looks quite nice. This looks slightly offset with the door, by the way, which with like architectural type of design, you might not quite like. You want to maybe keep it more to the side or something like that. Do some type of playing around with this type of design, making it look a little bit more balanced for this section. But for this particular part, again, because it slumps, we want that kind of a slight offset look. We want to make sure that these parts don't actually align, as you can see over here, as they were not built with like careful planning and careful precision. You want that to keep that kind of a off look, while at the same time preserve the overall structure of a building to make it look, structurally sound and whatnot. This part, I'm wondering if I should lower it down a little bit. I'll try lowering down a little bit like so. Might work quite all right for me. This, and it just hides this window over here on the side. I just noticed there was a bit of a window area over here. This section over here, I'm trying to figure out what to do in this area. So it's overlapping with this building I can see over here, and that's actually going to be quite all right. We might need to consider lowering this down a little bit just to get this window frame a little bit downwards. I'm going to take off the grid lock to just take it off completely, and I think that's going to be quite alright. It makes it look like it's just that sort of a window over here. So that's looking quite nice. And yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to this section. We got ourselves a nice setup. We can even check it with the gray box itself in comparison. And the gray box was just mashed around with just a couple of assets. We had added a little bit of an extra detail. This perhaps is going to look a little bit off. I'm going to take off the gray box. We don't have the main building over here. But all in all, if we check the design from different angles and whatnot, it looks quite alright. I'm quite happy with this overall section. And yeah, in the next lesson, we're going to continue on and make ourselves use out of the props that we have to build this larger type of a structure. It's going to be placed basically at the center of our city. It's kind of a poor man's mansion in a way. So we're going to make it look quite a bit fancy as well. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you.